before we play some Guild Wars 2, I think it's appropriate for us to know that MMOs are once again fucking dead. Deader than dog shit. Man, let's start off with Mr. Positive himself. Another dead MMO. Another one. Man, it just keeps happening, huh?
This one stings a bit. Not gonna lie here. Past couple of years, when looking out on the horizon of what's coming for the MMO genre, there has been one in-development game that I have eagerly awaited learning more about, and that was the new MMO being made by ESO developers NMX Online Studios.
How is this man excited for a ZeniMax game after what they did to ESO? Do you know how many videos I've seen of Sawman taking a shit all over ESO and what ZeniMax did to it? This man is truly Mr. Positive himself. Phil Spencer, man, this game is amazing. Cancelled every time.
For as much criticism as you may have for this online adaptation of The Elder Scrolls, it still sat quite comfortably in my top 10 favorite MMOs of all time. Like, yeah, sure, I wish the combat felt a little better, and I don't exactly love the monetization generally speaking, with some 500 plus DLCs available for purchase on top of all the cosmetics, conveniences, and the not really so optional monthly sub. Like, it is optional, but if you really want to play actively, you pretty much need it. Beyond those complaints...
You know, ESO is the kind of game that, yeah, if they could, they would make you buy a webcam from like some shady Alibaba fucking Temu site, and in order for the game to activate, they'd need like an active camera shoved up your ass as like some form of real life, like 3-factor authentication. That's what I expect from ZeniMax. I haven't even played that much ESO. But holy shit. Holy shit, the amount of stuff I've seen about it. There are so many videos about people just taking a shit on how predatory this game is. At least I can still play ESO without the sub, unlike Final Fantasy XIV where I sub once. I can't even access it without the sub ever again. I've never even heard of it. That's why I won't touch Final Fantasy XIV, ever. You got it backwards. They would take the money and you would need to do stuff to get the product. It's just, man, everyone takes a shit on their monetization and they just keep making it worse. Like, how out of touch do you consider ZeniMax to be with, like, anyone who plays MMOs? Because I think they're fucked, man. It's so bad. I just keep hearing complaint after complaint about it. If ESO had cooldowns, it would actually be a good game. The only issue is the button spam. See, this is the thing, is I can't comment on the gameplay because I haven't played it. But holy shit. The complaints, that's just an endless torrent of it. And this is coming from someone who played WoW for over 15 years. I have not seen that many complaints about WoW, and I haven't even played ESO. Holy shit.
Everything else about the game I genuinely adore. The world, the story, the environments, the exploration, the different classes available, the content variety, the interesting mix of both PvE and PvP content in this massive world with tons of solo and group options for both of them. There is so much that I have loved about my time with ESO, and the overall experience ranks quite high for me. Like I said, definitely in my top 10 favorite MMOs of all time. If I had to list them out, ESO might even make the cut into the top 5, frankly.
So we know he places it around 5 or 6. There are 4 better MMOs than ESO to play. And that's saying a lot since there's not any newly released ones that have, like, held rank amongst all the old guard. To be fair, bitching and complaining gets views, not praise. That's true. That's true, Cyro. People love to bitch and complain. I saw Force playing Albion a few nights ago. Dude keeps starting new characters for some reason. Maybe he's trying out a different class. For anyone who's played Albion, they'll understand what that joke. For anyone who hasn't, they have no idea what the fuck I just said.
I'll think about that for another video, I guess, though. Anyways, but yes, point being, I was very interested when learning that they had a brand new MMO in development and could not wait to see more. With how few new Western AAA MMOs are being made these days, I mean,
This man has such a fucking boner for Dune. This man has such a hard-on for Dune. That's how bad MMOs have gotten.
Can practically count them on one hand. This was 100% something that I was looking forward to. Well, as of this week, it's dead. After 7 years in development and just a few away from release, apparently targeting a 2028 launch, the new MMO from NMX Online Studios, codenamed Blackbird, it has been officially canceled, courtesy of Microsoft. So now we have like Ashes of Creation, I guess, to look forward to, and then maybe that Riot MMO in 7 years.
What's left? What's left? He's right. Ashes of Creation, which I'm gonna be honest. I have my fucking doubts. I have some big doubts about that game. Ooh, I have some super big doubts about that game. Star Citizen. No, we're talking about fucking MMOs here, not payment systems. Goddammit. I've said this before, and I'm going to keep on saying this. Star Citizen is never going to release. My conspiracy about Star Citizen is that it's never going to release because it's too profitable keeping it in alpha. You keep it in alpha, you're going to keep making money. It's like a shit. Once it's out, everyone knows what it is. But while you're still squatting over the person's plate, they're not going to know. They're just blind. They just don't know it's coming. Because retards keep paying. Oh, yeah.
Or whenever it comes out. I don't know who put a curse on this genre. I just hate this timeline so much. I just want more good new MMOs to look forward to. Why is this seemingly impossible? And don't get me wrong, I enjoy revisiting all of the same MMOs we've been playing for 15, 20, 25 years now. I still like them. I still go back and check out many of them all the time. But I just also want something new that's good to look forward to every now and then. Wouldn't that be fun, right? Now, on top of that, this project's cancellation was part of this massive round of layoffs at Microsoft with over 9,000 people losing their jobs, which always sucks, no matter how commonplace it may be. Firings, especially in the corporate world, this happens a lot. On the ground, nobody wants to lose their income. Nobody wants to be without pay, scrambling to find employment. Sure, life is uncertainty. The only guarantee we have is that everything can and will change eventually. That is true, yes, but it doesn't make going through something like this any more pleasant, for sure. So, as always, my sympathies and my heart goes out to anyone who lost their jobs in this process. I hope you get back on your feet quickly. Now, if there is any silver lining here from the game playing perspective and what's happening, I would say, I suppose, the following. For starters, maybe Microsoft wants ZeniMax Online Studios to redouble their efforts in the Elder Scrolls Online and put maybe a similar...
No. They want them to make a Minecraft MMO. That's what they want.
Amount of energy and updates as we've seen for other long-standing MMOs. It's definitely the case that ESO has been getting consistent updates over the years, but it's also the case that a lot of it has felt really samey in terms of what it is, in terms of new content they're delivering. It's basically like...
If I remember the conversation I had with Soulman, the updates that ESO has had have been primarily cash shop stuff. Isn't Minecraft already an MMO? I mean, you can make your own MMO server for it, no? I'd say it's more in the vein of something like Valheim, where it's an MO. It's like a multiplayer online game. But you could probably mod Minecraft into being an MMO. Because, Notch is such a fucking genius in the way he programmed that game. You could probably turn Minecraft into any version of any game ever. There's literally a big-ass MMO Minecraft called Wincraft. Never even heard of it. I'll need to look into it at some point.
In many cases, a lot of the same stuff, just in a new area. You know, I am always interested in playing new games, but I also don't hate the idea of ESO maybe even getting better with maybe bigger updates, maybe a graphics overhaul, maybe that combat update finally happens. Who knows if that is indeed what comes of this. That's one positive. Or maybe another thing is that...
Wait, hold on. I thought I saw something on Twitter about ZeniMax putting ESO into maintenance mode. Do I have that wrong? What other games has ZeniMax made? I need to look this up. ZeniMax Media, now part of Xbox Game Studios. RIP and Puss. Developed and published wide array. Okay. Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Rage, Wolfenstein, Prey, Dishonored, Evil Within, and Quake. All old school titles. Nothing new. People ask, does ZeniMax still exist? Maintenance mode just after revamping the OG zones. You see, that's why I think maybe I'm thinking about another MMO. Maybe I've got that wrong. I'm willing to bet I've probably got that wrong.
ZOS is working on another MMO within Bethesda's existing IPs, as Blackbird was an entirely new IP. In fact, from what I understand, they initially wanted to make a Fallout MMO, but were then redirected into making the Elder Scrolls one instead. So maybe now is the time where a Fallout MMO makes sense. Maybe they consider making...
Would a Fallout MMO be good? That's the real question. That list is wrong. They only made... Yeah, so... wouldn't be surprised if... Answer Fallout 76. Well played. Well played, Dog Rock. Well played. But did you get your Lightwood laminate? Because if you did... Can you really complain? I would be able to list 4 or 5 MMOs I like better than ESO. Well, so would Force, apparently. He said it's in his top 10 MMOs. It might even be number 5.
Making a Starfield MMO. That one might make less sense, depending, but who knows exactly. And then lastly, on the silver lining side of this, I would say that I'm just happy to hear that interesting ideas are still being pursued in this genre, despite the fact that this one got canned prior to us ever getting to see or play it. In the fallout, haha, of this cancellation, we have gotten a bunch of details about what this game was planned to be and how it was shaping up, and it all looked and sound pretty darn good. And those ideas came from people, and some of those people may revisit them again in the future. So again, that is one additional potential silver lining if we're looking for it. Now in today's video, we're going to jump into everything we have learned about Project Blackbird, which has actually been quite a lot, what people who saw and played the game thought of it, and what any of this might mean going forward for NMX Online Studios, for MMOs in general, and all of that. Before we get into it though, we do got a quick word from today's sponsor. Big shout out and thanks.
Okay. Of course we got the anime tits out. Man, someone just needs to make like an anime MMO porn game where you battle hot bitches with your dick. That'll be the #1 MMO within a week at this point. Jesus. Do Guild Wars 2 players look at ESO players and say, look at them coping on their dead game? No, absolutely not. That's not how it works, Jonathan. Here, let me show you how it works. Right? Here, this is the state of MMOs currently. Right? So, here's Guild Wars 2. Here's ESO. Here's WoW. Right? Here's your average ESO player. And he's saying, I'm sad. Right? That's what he's saying about his MMO right now. Right? And while the Guild Wars 2 players are over here fucking the dead corpse that is Guild Wars 2, right? They're looking over at the ESO players and going, wow, what a terrible game. I'm going to keep fucking this corpse right here. And then over here you have WoW in the background, right? And they're not even fucking the corpse. They're standing next to the corpse. Over here. And Blizzard is over here. Taking care of their players. That's how it works.
Thanks to today's sponsor, Girls Frontline 2 XCOM. This is a 3D strategy RPG available for PC, iOS, and Android that combines anime visuals with advanced...
Where's old school RuneScape? All the streamers are having a gangbang with it in the private rooms right now, Dubba. We're going to hear about the sexual assault allegations that OSRS is going to level at them in about a week. Because we know how toxic that game is. OSRS is actually one of the perfect streaming MMO games because you don't even need to pay attention to know what the fuck's going on. You can like read chat constantly all the time and not give a fuck about it. Because it's like click 2 buttons and wait 5 minutes. It's beautiful. Fallout MMO would create an overpopulated empty wasteland. That would be interesting. They would have to make the game huge. Or it'd have to give you different factions and let you kill each other near constantly.
Rendering tech, wow. You take command of tactical dolls heading out on missions, strategically
Oh yeah,
battling
it's
enemies
just
and
XCOM.
uncovering secrets. They recently launched
Okay, it's XCOM with animated.
brand new limited time event.
That's kind of genius.
Loop. This includes new elite dolls, Springfield, Perry, and Faya, the last of whom you can get for free by completing missions. So Springfield has an elite weapon, Radiance, based on the classic M1903 rifle. Perry brings Amanita, an upgraded MP5 SMG, while Faya wields Hestia, a CZ75 based handgun. Dorms are now more immersive as...
Oh, 10 out of 10 game. God damn, I need to see that again. Oh, good God. I need an instant replay on that. Holy shit. Also, thanks for the bits, McFries, please. Jesus. Oh, I was not ready for that. Fuck me. Let me get my dick out first. Jesus.
Hestia, a CZ75 based
Holy
handgun.
shit.
Dorms are now more immersive as well. You can hang out with your favorite dolls, boosting their attributes through the affinity system, or
Oh,
just
good
chilling
God.
on the couch. With this event, there's a bunch of new stuff and rewards. They've got limited time outfits like Springfield's Queen in Radiance, featuring interactive animations,
God
and discount
damn.
skins such as Flurry Crimson, Midnight Waltz, and Dawn.
You know, I love these anime games because they've got no fucking chill. Look at the fucking posture. Look at the posture on this shit. They knew exactly what the fuck they were doing with this image. They knew exactly what they were doing with this image. Holy shit. Anime games have zero chill. It's like, holy fuck. Holy fuck you for that one bit, Jarek, then. But it's like they saw Western devs start complaining about sexualization in video games. And these motherfuckers were just like, oh yeah? Watch me do it again. And they just keep getting worse with each iteration. You know what? I'm willing to bet. Yeah, you know, like how Japan's like birth rate is collapsing. I bet there's a correlation between the increase in anime porn games and sexualized shit and the lack of children existing in Japan. I'm willing to bet there's a correlation there. And no one wants to talk about it. It turns out video games didn't turn us into school shooters. They just turned us into gooners. We were shooting something, but it wasn't bullets. It was just fucking rope. Jesus Christ. It never stops. It never fucking stops. They know their fan bases. They fucking do. Look at this shit. God damn.
Crimson, Midnight Waltz, and Dawn Century. There's a bunch of rewards with up to 40 free polls.
Okay,
tons of
okay, that one's a bit young. That I feel like you should be on a list for this one. That one's a bit like, you know, that one's a bit like maybe the FBI need to get a hold of you.
Of collapse pieces and real-world prizes like an iPhone 16 and Razer keyboard. If you would like to learn more or jump into Girls Frontline 2 XCOM for yourself, just scan the QR code on screen or click on the link in the description below. All right, so now let's talk about this game that NMX Online Studios had cooking for the past 7 years that was reportedly just a few years away from release. What could have been? All right, Project Blackbird. Now, according to sources familiar with this in-development game, they summarize Blackbird as the following. It was like a blending of Destiny, Blade Runner, and Horizon Zero Dawn. Players take up the role of revenants aligned with one of 5 different factions to explore the planet Soteria, which has a side scorched by endless sun, another side covered in darkness and ice, and a habitable zone in between known as the Twilight Band, all of this wrapped up in a shooter MMO package. Another quote described the game as saying the following: Blackbird was a third-person online online looter shooter, not unlike the popular game Destiny, set within a new franchise. It had
instant disgust. Instant disgust. If they're comparing it to Destiny, I've got huge concerns for this game.
Had a sci-fi noir aesthetic similar to films like Blade Runner and placed a heavy emphasis on vertical movement, which sounds amazing to me. I quite enjoy this hybrid of open-world MMO third-person looter shooter and have wished for us getting more games in this subgenre for quite some time. The recently released Dune Awakening is sort of like this, although much more of a survival game than an MMO looter shooter. And
so Dune's not an MMO. What he's just told me is this game that got cancelled wasn't an MMO. But do you know what? Do you know what I'm noticing? I'm noticing that all these game companies know how fucking desperate every single MMO player is. That we will eat a pile of shit just to get a new MMO. We will eat whatever shit they feed us, and they know that. They're so well aware of that, and that's how they get away with marketing all these games as MMOs that are not MMOs. Sometimes I wonder if these games are developed in the background as like some kind of way to funnel money out of investors. And then they shut them down saying, oh no, it was going to be a terrible game. But they got away with a bunch of money in the process. I really wonder if they do that sometimes. Like it's all just, it's planned. It's planned from day one. They know they're going to shut it down, but they can get a whole bunch of money out of dumbass investors.
And then there are, of course, games like Destiny, Division, Once Human. Back in the day, we also had Defiance and Firefall, which kind of fit the mold. And apparently there was another new one coming, which I would have loved to see and play, but not anymore, which is definitely a bummer for me personally. Now, from a few different sources across numerous articles, we also learned many of the basics about the game's world, its setting, the classes, and even some of the planned content variety. So let's jump into that. So it was going to be a fully open world to explore with the requisite mix of biomes, with its typical visual diversity of locations, a bunch of different points of interest, and then a major city known as Exodus. Now, this was said to be a massive, elaborate zone in and of itself.
You know what the problem with all of this lore that he's telling me? So it's shit Warframe. You're right, Shelter. It's probably shit Warframe. Scamming rich cucks out of millions is a worthy cause. I mean, hey, they might actually be doing that. What's up, Tape? So, my problem is, why would you give a fuck about any of the lore of this game? Why would you? Where's the build-up? Where's the story of this game? Right? Does anyone know about the about how? I think it was Nescafe got coffee into Japan, where what they did was they knew that they couldn't get Japanese people to just all of a sudden start drinking coffee. So they instead made a bunch of coffee flavored sweets that kids would grow up tasting. And then when they got older, they would remember it from their childhood, and then they would start drinking coffee. And it took them like 15 years to get to that point, or something crazy like that. MMOs are kind of the same when it comes to story and lore. The reason people gave a shit about the story and lore of World of Warcraft was because of the Warcraft games, the RTS. The reason people give a shit about the ESO story is because of all the Elder Scrolls games that came before it. Those are the things that pull people in towards playing an MMO. If you design an MMO that's not like lore and story based, you have to do something like old school RuneScape, where there's not this big lore backstory, and it's just so fundamentally focused on your character. You can't have all these weird fucking story elements and then drag people in like, there's this world called Shakumbra, and in this world, the goddess La Ding Dong sucked on Dr. Disrespect's penis. And when he came, he didn't really come, because she was of consenting age. This all occurred within a bathroom, which spawned a universe underneath the toilet seat. And inside this universe that lives underneath the toilet seat, you play as a germ. Why would you give a fuck? This is the problem with story and lore when it comes to this. There are certain established franchises that can get away with basing their MMO on lore. This would be something like the Witcher franchise. Allegedly. You're right. Allegedly this happened. You'd have to use something like the Witcher franchise. You'd have to use something like Spellforce. You could use, god damn it, Mass Effect. But if you're gonna do like heavy lore implication kind of worlds, you can't just shit out a bunch of lore and expect people to give a fuck about it immediately. Otherwise, you got to keep it super simple and focus on the character like development instead.
Located smack in the center of the game's world, referred to as a mega.
I disagree on The Witcher. I bet you 99% of people who like The Witcher games never read Vidsman. It doesn't matter. They know enough about the lore from playing the games. Black and White. Oh my god. Don't fucking remind me of Black and White. That would be amazing. There's enough lore for The Witcher that they could probably spin off an MMO about a different time period before the conjunction of the spheres, or when the conjunction of the spheres happened, or some other shit like that. And you wouldn't actually play as a Witcher. You would play as, I don't know, peasant number 4 with a pitchfork, trying desperately to fucking survive. Right, and you would branch out your character from there. You could do like a bunch of different stuff using the backstory and then tie it back into the lore. But it's the fact that you've got like a pool to pull from.
A city with many vertical layers, hidden secrets, and mysteries to be found within, which also played into the game's traversal system. And then on either side of the city, as you go from that habitable twilight band in the middle towards those outer extreme ends, that is where the biome diversity would come in. So say in the dead center, I don't know this for certain, but you could imagine that the dead center would be something like a lush tropical rainforest, dense, full of plant and animal variety, right? And then in one direction, as you're heading towards the scorched side by the endless sun, it would get hotter and more deserty as you went until it was eventually a desert wasteland, basically like the deep desert in Dune. And then while in the other direction, as things get progressively colder, you would be transitioning from the jungles into more foresty regions, eventually things like tundras, until eventually it became Antarctica, or maybe just like the moon or something, right?
Which all sounds cool in theory, but I want you to think about Trashfall. If you remember Ashfall, that was a game that pitched itself as Fallout MMO, and it turned out to be mobile fucking garbage. All of this sounds good. All of this is like pie in the sky kind of shit. And when it comes down to the reality of it, it sucks dick. You have well-established areas, factions, and rules on the magic of the world. I'm not sure which one you're talking about there. Anime MMO might actually work, just saying. There are, you know what, you're not wrong, Angry Dog. There's quite a few anime like franchises that could pull towards doing an MMO and get it right. Especially since there's like 3 billion different isekais that are essentially the same story of a loser gets teleported to another world, somehow has amazing powers and is a Giga Chad, and fucks every bitch on planet Earth. Like, that's the story of every single isekai. I've watched a few of them now. They're just the same story. Guy moves to a new planet and gets a bunch of bitches. That's the whole story. That's it. And hey, I'm just saying, you made that into an MMO. You made the class Cockmaster 3000, and you got a bunch of people all of a sudden playing your anime MMO. That I'm pitching ideas here for free. You should watch Mushoku Tensei. I've watched it. Super sploof. I've watched it. It gets real creepy when he fucks his cousin. Or it seems like he wants to fuck his cousin. I don't know if he actually fucks her or not. But it seems like he really wants to fuck his cousin. And like what fucks with me is this is a 30-year-old man who's like thinking about fucking his like 7-year-old cousin. And that's real fucked up. He's like, I'm a 30-year-old man trapped in a 7-year-old's body. That makes it okay. The fucking the anime fucking logic loops people jump through is fucking wild, dude. Holy shit. Some isekais has the guy struggle at first. Struggle at what? Struggle at which bitch he's gonna fuck? God damn it. He just fucks them all anyway. Jesus Christ. It never stops. I'd also play an MMO about being a germ under the public toilet fighting off Dr. Disrespect sperm. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Jesus Christ.
Right? Which is a pretty cool way to structure a game world and have all of the biome diversity stretching out from the center mega massive city that you would also be exploring. There was also, as mentioned, a heavy focus on traversal. Now, per an article on Bloomberg, we learned players could use abilities such as double jumping, air dashing, a grappling hook, and wall climbing to fling themselves around tall buildings like superheroes, which
so the basics. That's the basics.
very much sounds like a mix of something like the movement system of Dune, where you've got that Shigawire cable and suspensor belt that really lets you sail around the environment, but also combined with some of like the space ninja movements that you get in a game like Warframe, both of which I enjoy. From another article touching traversal, they said it was a core aspect of the game, with Exodus, that main city, offering a vertical playground for players to explore, equipping players with a grappling hook, and according to our sources, you'd have been able to climb and wall run on any surface. The team really wanted...
What do you like more? Story without lore or lore without story? Probably lore without story. I'd prefer to be a literal nobody in a game discovering the story of the world around me, rather than you are the chosen one. You are random human MMO guy who is the chosen one in the world, but also everyone else is the chosen one who's playing the game. Make this make sense? That's like the dumbest shit ever. Because I know that there's 70 other people in line waiting to fuck the same side character as me. It doesn't work. Make me nobody and make me work for it. That works way better.
Found in games like Spider-Man or the driving in GTA. That feels like a strange reference for the vertical flying movement through the game, but maybe there was also driving in the game and that's how it's similar to the driving in GTA. I don't know. Onto the setting and story. Blackbird's narrative centered on the murder of this high-profile NPC and the game's various syndicate factions with their hidden secrets within Exodus, which, given its apparent size, was also going to feature a lot of content and exploration of you discovering secrets and mysteries behind the game's narrative. Now, speaking of which, the syndicates in this game were being designed to act as a faction system similar to that of other Bethesda Game Studios RPGs, where you would have these competing and conflicting worldviews and goals, and then you as a player would decide which of them you align most with, and you would go out on missions aiding that syndicate, and then in the process likely drawing aggression from the other syndicates. Now on to our characters and
Do you see what the problem is with everything he just said? All of that could be what you're imagining in your head, or that could be 2 lines of dialogue in the fucking story. Do you see how it's like what you're thinking in your head about what this game could be and what it actually is are going to be 2 different things? What are the biggest IPs that have no MMOs yet? Oh, shit. Damn, I'd have to think about that one. Jurassic Park. Might and Magic, yeah. Marvel, that's a good one. Harry Potter. Fuck. You know how hard a Harry Potter game would go that lets you be like a fucking, if it was Harry Potter with like a GTA spin on it, where you could just be a fucking crazy person in the Harry Potter world. Diablo, StarCraft. Diablo's already got its MMO. Don't you have phones? StarCraft, Digimon, Pokemon, Harry Potter, every anime ever. Shit. Dune doesn't have an MMO. They just pretended they did, and then they deleted all the marketing material that said it was an MMO. Warhammer has had an MMO, but they haven't done a correct MMO. They've done it like shit. That's the problem. Warhammer needs like a really solid MMO on the same level of detail that they did Space Marine 2. Not the same gameplay, just the same level of detail. Fuck, there's so many.
in the game's class system. So as mentioned, you played are what are referred to as revenants. They had a detailed customization system planned, including being able to sculpt your body, adding scars and tattoos, biomodifications, and even cybernetics. Classes in the game were going to fit into the Holy Trinity style of MMOs. So they already had like tanky gun for hires, various types of damage dealers, these environmental controlling tech operators, maybe something like what's that spy game, that Ubisoft spy game where you go around and you like stop the traffic lights? Something Watch Dogs, maybe something like Watch Dogs where you can stop signs and the enemies stop coming towards you or something. And then they also had healers known as these augments. NMX Online Studios was in the process of working through and fleshing out the game's skill system at the time the project got canceled. And they also talked about the fact that,
you know what, I just had a fucking sick idea in my head. And I don't know if it's genius or it's just dog shit. I watched this because I had a cousin at the time. And I used to chill with him and then like watch these shows. And it wasn't actually, admittedly, it wasn't actually bad. It was pretty cool. So I'm going to say something that's real fucked up. You know what might work? Is an Adventure Time MMO. I don't know if anyone knows what Adventure Time is. My Little Pony, fuck no. God no. God please no. An Adventure Time MMO might actually work. Just saying MLP MMO would be omega successful. It probably would be, but based on the fan art I've seen, there would be too many people trying to fuck the horses.
you could define your character's personality as you progress through the story, role-playing various choices and interacting with NPCs that would intentionally come across as morally gray, leaving you to sort of define your experience as you go through the narrative. Now, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time and heard me talk about games in the past, you probably know that the hard narrative of games, the overarching story and the individual storylines aren't of the utmost importance to me, especially in MMOs, but I do like the world building that especially some of the small side stories and the environmental story.
But would I play the My Little Pony MMO? Only if it was in VR and you could convince everyone with phantom sense to play the game so I could fuck with them.
Storytelling can give you, but it did seem like they were leaning into some of this more traditional RPG storytelling and even aligning with Bethesda Game Studios RPGs with them having this faction system of syndicates. It seemed like this was going to be a big focus of the game, as well as all of the MMO looter shooter stuff that I'm really interested in myself. Now on to the types of content they had planned for the game. So questing was going to offer both plenty of solo and 4-player group missions that could be taken up. Besides exploring, you would take on basic quests, sending you out into the world to complete various objectives and collect rewards. Sounds pretty standard MMO / looter shooter type of structure. There were going to be more difficult missions called strikes, but okay, where groups of up to 6 players could complete very hard objectives. And then even bigger than that were these large public events called firefights, where players would dynamically have to come together to take on a much bigger threat, maybe a large invasion of enemy NPCs or these big bosses that required more than just a small group of players to take on. There were also plans for a housing system, daily login rewards, okay? It was said that much like Elder Scrolls Online, Blackbird would have a primarily PvE and co-op focused gameplay with these shared world elements, but there would be elements of PvP within there for people who enjoy that. And I think ESO does a really great job of that. They've got like a bulk.
Yeah, do you see how all of this sounds so good? But it sounds like none of this was going to happen the way you think it is. The thing you're imagining in your head as the ideal MMO that he's talking about is not the reality of the situation. It was going to be like PvP is a turn-based card game. The story is actually 2 lines of dialogue which lets you pick your faction. It's just 5 corridors that you shoot things down and then rinse repeat. Fuck, like, in the past I used to read stuff about future MMOs coming out and have these grandiose ideas in my head. And now I just sit here like an old drunk, pissed off, knowing that it's not going to be that ever.
Bulk of the game is this PvE content, solo content, story-based content, group dungeon content, raid content, even like solo endgame challenge content. Again, ESO isn't perfect. No game is, but ESO, there's a lot of complaints you can levy against it. But the world they've built, the content variety,
all right,
the different things you do
Gilda.
and see in this game, it's so darn good. And I would have loved to see how they took those lessons and brought it into this next project. It really is a massive bummer that this thing got canceled. There was going to be a modification of weapons, customization of your own apartments and that player housing. There was also vehicles in the game and even drones. And although playing...
Fuck player housing. I could not give a shit about player housing at all. I've tried so hard to care. I don't give a fuck about player housing.
Similar to Bethesda RPGs, they said the team was aiming to have it feel more accessible like Destiny or dynamic like Warframe, while also encompassing a mysterious world along the lines, once again, of Horizon Zero Dawn. So you're seeing this game get reference to a lot of the same games from multiple...
Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Fuck me.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Forget about it. Forget about it. Forget about it. Forget about it.
Well, that one got fucked up.
Different sources. They were going to have progression stuff as well. There was a crafting and gathering loop in the game. And also, much like ZeniMax's other MMO, Blackbird would have offered players new ways to customize their character, craft and upgrade gear, and complete progressive challenges for higher quality rewards. So that is pretty much everything that's come out and that we know about this in-development project from the various sources. Now, let's talk about what people thought about it. So we do have reports that just earlier this year...
And fuck photo modes. I'll tell you what, Moonstone, I actually appreciate photo modes. And I'll tell you why. It's not for any gameplay reason, but it's because the system like NVIDIA Ansel doesn't exist. And if... Here, I'll show you something. If photo mode existed in Dune, I would be able to make the fucking thumbnail that I wanted for Dune Awakening. But instead, I went through all the effort of extracting the character models, only to find out that I can't get the fucking textures out of the game because of the way they made the game in Unreal Engine 5.2. I was gonna make a Doom-inspired Dune thumbnail, and I can't do it. And I tried my best to paint these character textures, but guess what? It looks like dog shit. That's why I care about photo mode. Fuck player housing. But photo mode goes hard. Especially if you want thumbnails. It works really fucking well for videos. What does player housing actually do? Give people some weird attachment. I understand it in OSRS, where you get a bunch of tools and teleports. So, like, I think there's a value to, like, player housing if there's something that you can do in your player housing that adds to the experience of the game. But player housing that's purely aesthetic, I couldn't give a fuck about it because it just feels like a time waster to me. Like, I understand other people get value out of it, and good for them. But honestly, I just couldn't give a fuck. If I don't get any usable output value, just couldn't give a fuck.
Xbox executives sat down, played, and were reportedly blown away, having nothing but complimentary words for the vertical slice of the game that they saw. It was even said that Phil Spencer was enjoying the game so much that they had to physically pull the controller away from him during a meeting so they could continue their discussion. This was according to two people who were evidently in the room at the time. Also, Jason Schreier reported with this quote, saying, "I saw footage of the vertical slice just last night and was impressed. It was a slick-looking demo with alluring visuals and battles."
All of this is bullshit to me. All of this sounds like marketing to me. Okay, for a content creator, I can see that, but for players, like, I don't care about your 100th screenshot of your character. That's fine. That I can understand that it's niche use, right, Moonstone? And I can understand from a player perspective, it doesn't feel like it adds any value. So that I get.
Sequences. We also heard from someone who was reportedly an early playtester of the game and had some rather lofty praises for it, saying, "The game had some of the best receptions for a multiplayer-focused title that I've seen in years. It takes an absolute truckload to have folks heap praise on a multiplayer playtest in the modern times. This game would have been spectacular." He then later added by saying, "Typically in situations where publicly known games get canceled, there's this sense in the fan base of the thing we didn't get might have been so incredible, and finger pointing amongst execs who just didn't get it, FOMO and all of that. Well, this is one of the canceled games that, by literally every account, sounded like it would have been a slam dunk in every sense. And while certainly anecdotal, these accounts, accompanied with all of the leaked details of the game, are definitely enough to have me at least wishing we could have got the chance to see it release, even if it didn't end up being a resounding success. It's definitely something I would have loved to get the chance to play. So why did all this happen?
I'm sorry, I don't trust it. I don't trust it at all. None of what he said, I trust. Everything that comes out of a game dev studio, it sounds like marketing bullshit to me. I'm such a jaded piece of shit at this point in my life that I trust none of this. And it all just sounds like marketing. Oh, the game was so amazing that we had to pull the controller out of his hands. And we get the game and it's fucking Pong. That's what I expect at this point. Don't know if you ever played Neverwinter Nights. I so wish they will make the original game, give it MMO capability, and think it will actually draw people in. You know what? That's not a bad idea, Angry Dog. Maybe something like an upgraded, updated version of Neverwinter Nights with the addition of... Oh, hold on, that's something else. There we go. Something like Neverwinter Nights that's updated, that's in the style of something like Baldur's Gate 3, but that's more action-based. That might work.
Happened? Well, as mentioned at the top, the cancellation of Blackbird was part of this massive round of layoffs at Microsoft, during which they cut more than 9,000 jobs, a large number of which from their gaming unit. Now, besides the Blackbird MMO in development by NMX Online Studios, they also canceled a Perfect Dark reboot, Everwild, which was the game we heard about like 5 or 7 years ago, the next title from Rare, which was said to be like a fantasy spin on what they did with Sea of Thieves, and they also cut several external projects, including a first-person shooter from Romero Games. Now, as for Blackbird in particular, the game was evidently making good progress, despite the fact that it had a long development time, evidently roughly 7 years. Now, how much of that was actually pre-production? Like, if there was like 3 years of pre-production before they actually ramped up and started getting a large number of developers on the team, it's actually not so outrageous. We just don't know. That 7-year timeline can mean so many things. There could have been 5 years of pre-production and just 2 years of actual production where they had a full team of...
This is so off topic, but it's been running through my head since you asked that question. Do you know what would go really fucking hard as an MMO? Like an MMO FPS game? Command and Conquer. An MMO game. Command and Conquer done as an MMO by people who love the fucking series could go so goddamn hard. And it's never happening. We're never getting that. Cock would go hard. Yeah, Cock would go real hard. It's not jaded or cynical, it's just experience. Just because you and we are not eating their shit doesn't mean it's something negative. You're probably right. I just feel like I'm such a negative piece of shit because of the MMO space, like all the time, because of how many losses we keep taking. It's just L after L after L after L. Like, when was the last time MMOs in the last 10 years got a W? And I don't tell me about games that are over fucking a decade old. We shouldn't be playing Guild Wars 2. We shouldn't be playing old school RuneScape or Black Desert Online or fucking World of Warcraft. None of us should be playing these games. We should be playing some new hotness that has just absorbed the fuck out of us, and it's like crack. It's like actual crack. How many of those games currently exist?
Multiple hundred people working on it, right? We just don't know. But yes, it has been 7 years of production, however much was full or pre, since the game initially evidently got started. So that is a long time. But there were a lot of positive impressions, as we saw. Like Phil Spencer, they had to pull the controller away from him that he was enjoying it that much. Maybe he's just a gaming addict, although I doubt it. So why did this game get the axe as well? Well, it all comes down, especially with Microsoft, to the money decision, right? They cut a lot of projects. This wasn't the only one. It's not like they just canceled Blackbird. They cut 9,000 jobs and canceled many, many projects in the process. And it all comes down to them for the money equation. So when we're looking at Blackbird in particular, we could imagine it could be any possible combination or individual bits of these. Maybe they didn't think it was going to pay off, having already spent 7 years of development cost. If they had another 3 still...
They probably saw what happened to games like New World. They probably saw what's happening to Ashes of Creation. They saw what's happened to all these other games, and they were like, nah, can't be us. We're out of here. We're right the fuck out of here. Or it was just a slush fund to get rid of money. The only cock I know is Corruption of Champions. I recommend that for your next speed ban. I'll take a look into it.
little more to go, and that of course means another however many tens or hundreds of millions of dollars of development cost over those years before the game even launches and they can make a single penny back. They may also not have been very confident in how this game that they were working on would perform, or in other words, maybe they didn't think it was going to strike gold, maybe they didn't think it was good enough, or just, 3 years from now it was too big of a gamble for them to justify spending those extra years of development cost. And you also have to keep in mind the fact that this was an entirely new IP, and that inherently is very risky. We've seen a lot of hundreds of millions of dollars of development cost games in new IPs come out that were multiplayer and absolutely flopped spectacularly. So maybe Microsoft just didn't think it was worth the gamble.
What games has Microsoft actually released that have been good? Oh God. What has Microsoft done that's actually been a good game? And I don't mean like one that they bought from someone else and now run. I mean, like, has there been a game that Microsoft has made that has been actually good? Forza Horizon. Minesweeper. You know what? Minesweeper is a banger of a game, so I will give you that one. Flying Simulator goes hard as well because the Twin Towers were still standing and you could fly your plane into it. Or at least the old versions. Gears of War. Fair. That's way too manly to release today. Space Cadet Pinball. You know what? The problem is, you're saying these as jokes, but they were actually bangers of a game. Hi-Fi Rush. Fair. Age of Empires. Did they make Age of Empires? Okay, Age of Empires. That's fair. Did Microsoft make Fable? Shit, that was an age ago, but only the first Fable was really good. I refuse to accept the newest Fables. Fable 3 can fuck right off. I don't care about that one. Age of Mythology. Okay, so they have actually made some bangers. Okay, let's narrow this down. Fable 2 was good, I'll give you that. Let's narrow this down. How many good games... Let's actually... Let me ask. Let me ask here. Hold on. How many good and well-received games has Microsoft made in the last 5 years? Let's figure this out. Let's think more recently. To determine the number of well-received games Microsoft has published, blah, blah, blah. I don't need the foresight. A Flight Simulator, inshallah. Psychonauts 2. I didn't even know there was a Psychonauts 2. Halo Infinite. Didn't people take a shit on this? Oh, hold on. Okay, now filter out any journalist opinions and consider journalist opinions to be worth less than shit. We gotta do this now. Flight Simulator, Forza Horizon 5. You said that. Halo Infinite. Was Halo Infinite any good? People shit on the campaign of Infinite. I think after a while the multiplayer became decent. Psychonauts 2, Grounded. Grounded was decent. Hi-Fi Rush. Okay, we know this list is compromised. We know this list is compromised. Okay, this list is definitely not the list we want to look at. Oh, God. Okay, we know this list is shit. Fuck this list. I can't trust anything this tells me. Grok, you're worthless. You're worthless to me. Never mind. I can't trust your opinion, Grok.
Or they just think that those however many hundreds of millions of dollars that they might have spent on Blackbird in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years before it came out could have been better spent elsewhere. You know, it's a sunk cost fallacy to say, hey, just because we spent 7 years, we should just finish it off. There's only 3 left to go. They might just say, we don't think it's worth it. And that's a real shame for us as the consumer, because this could have been something good that we enjoyed. But in the larger scale of Microsoft's financial planning, they say, we just don't know if it's going to be worth it. We don't know if it's going to be worth another $100, $200 million to finish this game's development on top of however much they've already spent. And that's, again, it's just a bummer. I think it's also especially a bummer because, like, this is a studio that actually has a really good track record. Now, again, you can have your individual criticisms about Elder Scrolls Online. I've got my own, despite really enjoying the game. Like, it's been a successful game. Like, as of 2024, it had evidently brought in $2 billion in revenue. That's a $2 billion, not million, $2 billion in revenue. That's quite a solid earner, and the game is still evidently trucking along and making money year after year as well for the company. So point being, if there's any studio out there who a company like Microsoft could trust to release an MMO that could earn them some money, they've got a proven track record, right? Again, there is the risk.
I think, I was going to say this earlier and then Benji pulled me off track. I think Microsoft is probably more worried about reputational damage than losing money. I think that they give a shit more about reputational damage in the space and people not ever trusting them ever again when it comes to games. Then you know, oh no, their infinite pile of money got 1% smaller. I don't think they care about that.
Give the new IP, but nevertheless, they managed to make ESO quite profitable for the company, so it's just a real shame. Now, I did touch on this earlier, but I just want to reiterate some potential silver linings here. The first being, I'm just happy to hear, like, there were people out there working on a game like this, because a game like this is certainly a game that I would be very interested in playing. I was super happy with Dune Awakening. I got, like, nearly 400 hours before I finally threw in the towel, and I'm still looking forward to going back to that game, although that game does lean more into the survival aspect of things, and I would love to have more third-person, open-world looter shooters that lean more into the MMO element of things, which it seemed like this game was going to be doing. We're not going to get this game, but maybe more games like it come out in the future. And then also, I mean, for what's going to happen with NMX Online Studios, if they double down and just went full bore into the Elder Scrolls Online because they're like, hey, the Elder Scrolls, this is a great IP for us, it's a great franchise, sort of like WoW is doing with World of Warcraft, whatever thoughts you have about retail, you know, they're still, it's...
If they focus on ESO, I think they fucked up ESO to the point that the only way they make it redeemable is if they make an ESO 2. If they start again from scratch. And also if they shit can ZeniMax and do it themselves.
Still making money for Blizzard, and it still does have a fan base, and they still keep supporting it and working on it and improving it, depending on who you ask. And maybe they want to do something like that with Elder Scrolls Online, and I don't hate that idea. Like, if we got a massive graphical update, if we got a massive combat update, if they finally started releasing content that actually felt different and unique, that would be really cool as well. So yeah, I don't hate the idea of ZeniMax Online Studios like putting more time and effort into ESO and making it like a game that just continues on for decades from now. I don't hate it as much as I would love new things, and I do love to play new things. And then lastly, maybe they do go back to the drawing board and work on a Fallout MMO, maybe a Starfield. I don't know. I would play a Starfield MMO. I don't like have any real love for Starfield.
Oh, can you imagine how fucking shit a Starfield MMO would be after the mess that Starfield was? Speaking of MMOs, did you try the Apogea playtest? No, I was too busy dealing with legal shit, unfortunately. Ah, fuck. Starfield. Starfield is just basically, it's a reskin of Fallout in space. Now imagine they took that and they made Starfield 76. It's not gonna be the thing people want it to be. Just like Starfield was a fucking mess.
Feel that the game was fine. I didn't hate it as much as many people seem to have, but it didn't blow me away like any prior Elder Scrolls game or Fallout game has. But I don't know. I'll see what they do with it, you know? So we'll see what happens. That's pretty much it for the story, though. I think really one of the big things for me is it is really a big bummer, as this was, like I said, one of the few AAA Western-developed MMOs that I was really looking forward to that seemed like it was going to be coming out in the near future. There are certainly other games in production that we know about, but they look to be 5+ years away. And apparently this one was. My hypothesis was right, that this was going to be one of the nearer releasing AAA Western MMOs coming. It was supposed to come out in 3 years from now, but now it's dead. Yeah, man, I don't know what the MMO genre did to piss off the almighty video game development gods, but I really wish we weren't so cursed. I really wish.
Man, I think MMOs might actually go the way of RTSs at this point. Like, it's getting so bad, MMOs are starting to look like RTSs. When was the last time you saw an RTS just clean sweep everything? I don't mean like dig into a niche community and just like, you know, hold on to that niche community. I mean like clean sweep, everyone wants to play it. I think MMOs are going through what RTSs went through about 10 years ago. It's starting to happen. I blame the Zoomers. Because they'd rather fuck Chun-Li in fucking Fortnite than play an MMO.
We could just get more new MMOs. I wish it weren't so expensive. I wish it didn't take so much time to develop. I wish it wasn't such a risky proposition that everyone is so adverse to it. I just love the genre so much and I want to see more. I love all the existing ones that I play. I do. I do like going back. I play Classic WoW. I go back and check out Retail World of Warcraft occasionally. I play Guild Wars 2. I play ESO. There's a bunch of different games. I just went back to check out.
Just listen to what he's saying. It's all the old shit. There's nothing new. Social media killed the social aspect of MMOs. We don't talk in game. We have Discord servers. Yeah, that's true. Which means that MMOs need to start Discord integrations. You tell it. Oh, wait, hold on. I read that one already. To be fair, I can't even imagine an RTS having a wide enough reach to come anywhere near a clean sweep. Exactly. There are no RTSs that are ever going to have that clean sweep mentality again. Probably the same thing with MMOs.
Albion Online, the list goes on, but it just seems so hard for us to get new good ones over these past 5 or 10 years, and then looking forward into the next 5 or 10 years, there's like a handful of games that we can even look forward to. Many of them will probably flop, so there's we got like a couple of chances for another good one that has any sustaining power over time. Yeah, I don't know, man. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the.
Damn, they're even wearing on Force's soul.